Thanks for checking into the State of Basketball Podcast, episode 17. I'm Adam Miller, and I'm here with Jaron Will each and every week, where we are going to be bringing you the news and notes on all 11 Division I basketball schools in the state of Indiana, because in 49 states,
it's just basketball. So, as our first season's really wrapping up, there's
oh my God, don't remind me.
There's a couple weeks left of the regular season. Obviously, we still have March to go, but we just want to give you a reminder. If you like our content, please feel free to, one, share it with a friend, share it with someone you think will also enjoy it, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We've loved the interaction we've had on Twitter so far, so follow us on Twitter. That's going to be the easiest way to engage with us on our day-to-day basis, but we are trying to grow our YouTube channel, so please feel free to do that. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts as well. That way you always get notifications anytime a new episode releases.
We're an Indiana podcast. Indiana basketball, I guess, specifically.
Not to be confused with Indiana University basketball. Yeah. Indiana, big state of Indiana. You see, if you're watching the flag of Indiana behind us, all Division I basketball in Indiana.
Yeah, so it was All-Star Week, and we tried to go. And by we tried to go, I mean back when they were saying that they had Indiana resident tickets, they were like, all right, they're going to be, tickets only for Indiana residents at this time. And I was in there. I waited in that queue, literally got into the queue like as soon as it refreshed, like literally as the minute hit. No tickets.
Sold out fast.
Bots. It was bots. Had to be bots.
I mean,
there's no way.
Maybe a little bit, but also basketball is just different in Indiana, and it's a big deal to have the All-Star game here. So,
when I went on Twitter, all I saw were people complaining about how they didn't get tickets. So,
okay,
you just can't trust it.
You're right. You're probably right.
Did not go. Did not watch. It's going on right now. Probably.
Couldn't tell you.
That's how much.
My priority was this podcast.
We're a college show. But that's going on in Indy. That's cool. We did talk about how they put that basketball court in the airport that should stay forever. I mean, you've got like
why get rid of it?
You've got like Indy cars everywhere. Yeah. Like in the airport, you've got like Indy cars and stuff, and they're all over. Leave the basketball court. I mean,
who says no?
It's fitting.
Who says no?
Throw tables and stuff there, on the court or whatever. Just like leave it for decoration.
I mean, leave some space to get some shots up.
Oh, I mean, outside, tables outside the 3-point line,
Yeah. What do you mean? It's Indiana. People shoot threes.
I know, that way you be snacking and then you're like, all right, I got enough energy.
Oh yeah. Just stand up from your seat.
Yeah.
Take a shot.
It's like tables, lining around, so you can have the homies watch.
Yeah. I got you.
But yeah, so I don't know.
It is going on right now, by the way.
Okay. I don't even know what the teams are.
Is East first West. It is East first West again.
They went back to that?
They went back to that, which I love. And East is currently up 6 in the second quarter.
Do you think...
I'll give updates throughout the episode.
What's the over-under? Like 400?
Probably. I don't even think they set lines for it just because it's absurd. But we're also not a betting show, so
yeah. I don't
really care about the line.
I don't know. I'm the only thing that I know is that Mac McClung won back-to-back dunk contests, which is good for college basketball because he's played like 6 NBA games this year. He's just in the G League. Dude was balling out at Texas Tech, plays in the G League, and has now won 2 dunk contests
in a row, and his team played in the Rising Stars Championship.
So good for him. Good for college basketball. That's good for us. But
good for Indiana too. Tyrese Halliburton is currently leading all scorers with 15
in the All-Star game.
Yep, no one else has double digits.
That's surprising. What time is it? First quarter?
Second quarter. 10:28 to go.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get into it because you're not here to hear about the All-Star game. That's like the other guys. The other guys are talking about that.
I don't know who the other guys are, but they're not us. So they're not
Mark Wahlberg and that movie, The Other Guys.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Wahlberg and someone.
Will Ferrell?
I think so. Yes.
Will Ferrell?
Yes, I think so.
That sounds right.
I think I saw it once. Anyway, that's the other guys. So that's Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell's podcast.
Allegedly.
But let's get into the power rankings.
Yes. Gerald. That is my grandfather. I'm Jerry.
Wasn't your grandfather also Jerry?
It's neither here nor there. It was his government name was Gerald. Anyways, our week 16? Is that right? Are we the 16th week of the season?
No, 15, right? Week 15, because last week is week 14. Or we're recapping week 15.
Yeah,
Now you got me all twisted up.
It's just crazy to think about how long the season has
15,
been. How far we are
power
in the
rank
season.
after.
Yeah.
So
okay,
we're going into week 16.
Yeah. Our week 15 power rankings. Number 11. IUPUI.
Sheesh.
Number 10. Southern Indiana. Number 9. Valparaiso.
Go Beacons.
Moved up. We said the winds were changing last week, and they in fact changed. Number 8. Ball State University. Chirp, chirp. Number 7. The Dons. Purdue Fort Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6. The Evansville Aces.
All-time logo. All-time mascot.
Incredible. If you haven't seen their new logo, go check it out. It's actually on our power rankings graphic presently.
It's so sick.
It's such a cool logo. Number 5. Notre Dame.
Fighting Irish.
The Fighting Marcus Burtons. Number 4. Indiana University.
Bring back the Bison. Bring it back.
Who says no?
We have black jerseys now. Bring back the Bison.
I mean,
everything's on the table.
You're not wrong.
All right, Scott Dolson, I know you're listening. Bring back the Bison.
Bring back the Bison. Number 3. Indiana State. The Sycamores. Trees.
Sycamore Sam. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Number 2. Butler.
Butler Blue. 4. The 4th.
The 4th. It is currently the 4th. Number 1. The Boilermakers. Purdue.
Pete.
Boiler Pete. I'm proud of you for your mascot knowledge, Adam.
Yeah, I don't remember. Do
you know the name of the Ball State mascot?
Charlie.
It is Charlie.
Does the leprechaun have a name?
I mean, he has a name. He or she has a name. They interchangeably have a male and female.
Do they
play as the mascot? Yeah, because it's just a person that dresses up, which is also just absolutely that'd be stressful if you were the Notre Dame mascot because your face isn't covered.
Yeah,
you're just you.
Yeah, Purdue Pete, you're ugly because Purdue Pete's ugly, but if you're the leprechaun and you're ugly, it's because you're ugly.
Yeah. I feel like, are there any other, I know West Virginia, the Mountaineers, they have a person mascot where they do tryouts every year. I can't think of any other mascots that have actual person actual people. Well, they all have actual people, but that they don't wear a head dress, a head suit, a suit in general.
Yeah.
Mask. Is that the word I'm looking for? Headwear.
Yeah.
Looking something up.
I'm looking up Notre Dame mascot is just the leprechaun.
The leprechaun.
I can't confirm or deny. But it's obviously has to have the Dukes up. They are
the Fighting Irish.
There's when you Google it, it brings up 2 logos of him, and then in between the 2 logos of him is just some dude with his Dukes up. Anyway, we digress. Those are our power rankings. I mean, they're pretty solidified. I mean, you see everyone lost this week except for Notre Dame is the only team that didn't lose. But Notre Dame, Purdue Fort Wayne, and Purdue are the only teams that won.
Yes.
So this could have been a week very easily where no one moved, but we just had two teams switch because Valpo lost, but they played close and they have better wins.
In general, they have better wins.
Yeah. But I don't know. Probably the most depressing week we've had in the state.
Yeah.
And by probably, I mean by far.
I mean, I thought last week was bad.
Yeah, and this
week was, we were in the gutter. Really is the only way to describe it.
It started on a high because like Monday happens and Indiana State is ranked 23rd. Yeah. Like they're not even
first
25th.
Time
they're
since
23rd.
79.
Yeah. So, you're feeling good and then just the L's just pile up. They just pile up and
they didn't stop.
It felt terrible.
But next week
we bounce back.
We bounce back.
Last
week we took an L.
Next week we bounce back.
Yep.
I love it. All right, let's talk about Ball State. So they went 0-1 this week. That's going to be a common trend, 0-1, 0-2. They're 12-13 overall, so they're now below 500 overall, and they are 4-8 in the MAC conference. They dropped down like 12 points in KenPom. They're 269th, down from 257th. They played at Miami this week, and it just wasn't good. 80-59 loss.
Yeah, 21-point loss is not what you want to see at this point in the season, especially for them because they're currently sitting at 9th in the MAC. And we talked about it, I think, the last few weeks. Top 8 teams, make the MAC tournament. So Ball State at this point has an uphill. I think they've been in 9th for a few weeks, but they've
been in the fight to make the tournament. Is like what we've been eyeing them with.
Yeah. They do. Luckily, they have 2 must-win games coming up. And in 2 weeks, they play Western Michigan, who's currently in 8th. And they beat Western earlier in February. So,
do you know where it is? Didn't they go to Western Michigan and win?
I believe they play at home. I believe they're at Worthen.
Okay, that sounds good, but they have had their struggles at home this year. So
yeah,
you never know.
It's MAC tournament's still in reach, but it's definitely gonna be a dog fight for them to make the tournament.
This game just kind of stunk after halftime. Like it was a 1-point game at half, and then Miami went on an 8-0 run and like a 12-2 run, and ended up beating them by 21.
Yep.
It just this game against Miami and the game we're going to talk about it for our next team, Butler, the second halves just killed them.
Oh yeah.
There were actually a couple teams that just got killed in the second half, and were in it in the first half. But like you said, let's hope that they can make the MAC tournament, beat Western Michigan, hopefully move up into that 8 spot. But let's talk about Butler, Jaron.
Yeah, Butler. So they did move down in KenPom. They're no longer in the top 50. They're at 55. They were at 49. They went 0-2 this week. Two tough matchups. They played Marquette and Creighton, both at Inkle. Their overall record, they're still 16-10 overall, and they're 7-8 in the Big East. But they lost to Marquette, real close, 78-72. In that Creighton game was kind of what Adam talked about. Second half got the best of them. They lost 79-50.
Yeah, this was. So we talked last week about like they're in the field.
Yeah.
Like they're in the tournament. And, you're looking at this week and you're thinking, I want to go 1-1. Like if you tell me, you can lock in 1-1 right now before either of these games are played, or you can risk it, I think you take the 1-1 every time.
Yeah.
You've beat both these teams at their places. So, maybe they're going to,
come back with a vengeance, maybe.
Yeah. And like Tyler Kolek was the worst player on earth when they played him. So you figure something's going to be different. So I think you lock in 1-1 before the week happens, and you competed against Marquette. You got close, made it like a 2-point game late, but you couldn't close. And you're like, okay, we competed though.
Yeah.
Marquette is a very good team. What are they? 4th?
They
fourth
were
right now.
They were
going
fourth
this
in the
week.
country. They might drop. They did lose to UConn, which we'll
Yeah.
talk about a little later.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were fourth at the time that they
So
played.
it's like, Marquette's a very good team, and then you're playing 17 Creighton or something, and you beat them at their place, so you're feeling good. Creighton gets the revenge game. Like we said, they just completely took over after halftime. Pierre Brooks had 2 points. Like, he's been in double figures, I think, all but one game. Now 2 games this season.
Right.
Like, they just controlled it.
I mean, someone said it too, is if you rewind and don't watch the second half, does it really count? Not
That
wrong.
Someone was me.
Did you actually tweet that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Hey, I got
shout outs.
I got the notification. A couple people liked it, and I thought it
Nice.
was us liking their tweets.
That's what's up. I've been now quoted on our show. You love it. Yeah, it was like, you get outscored 45-22 in the second half.
Mhm.
You go 1 for 11 from 3. You're not going to win a Big East game that way. I don't care where you are. So, big picture, I think you're looking at Butler back on the bubble.
Yep.
These were obviously like quad 1 losses, but like you lost the Creighton game pretty badly at home, and so those will kind of balance out, like, on your resume. The win and the loss will kind of balance out between the teams. But I mean, you're back on the bubble. You got to hope that people on the bubble start losing, or that you win some in the back half of your schedule to make it in. So
Yeah. I mean,
we'll see.
and really at the end of the day, like going into this season, right? We talked about it our very first episode. Butler was predicted to go 6-14 and finish 9th in the Big East. If you told me then that they were going to split with both Marquette and Creighton, I would have thought you were crazy.
Yeah.
If you told me that they almost beat Marquette twice, I would have lost my mind. But like,
And we're competitive with UConn both
right,
games.
right? And I mean, thinking about it right now is like, I'm more, based on how they've played over the last few weeks, like I'm more shocked that they didn't beat Marquette twice than I am that they split. Just because, I mean, this team has the juice, right? Like, we've seen it. They can compete with just about anyone. And what's considered by many the best conference in college basketball.
By,
So,
everyone.
it's, there's still ball to be played.
Yeah.
There's still kind of,
Yeah, you look
opportunities to boost that resume
absolutely.
and solidify themselves in the tournament.
I mean, you go like you have Villanova at Villanova. So I mean, your schedule doesn't get any easier until you end with DePaul and Xavier, and that's like as easy as it gets. And Xavier's still not easy. But next week is still a tough week because they have at Villanova, at Seton Hall. So like if you win one of those, if you go 1-1, you're still below 500 in conference. So you got to win two of your final 3, but like get to 500 in the conference and win a road game, and I think that's enough.
Right.
So
Yeah.
as long as the one road game you win is not at DePaul, you win one more road game, you're fine.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's talk about Evansville though. They did go up in KenPom despite having 2 losses. They're at 183. They were at 189. Like I mentioned, they went 0-2. They're 15-12 overall. They're 6-10 in the Missouri Valley. They lost to Drake, 78-75. A little bit of a heartbreaker there. And they lost at Illinois State, 86-79. I mean, this team intrigues me so much. It's like, we've been following them all year, right? I can't get a read on like, what is like, are they good? Are they bad? Are they meh? Like they did go they did have a run there where they went 1-7.
Yeah, but Ben was out.
They were playing without their best player. Other than that one win that they had in there, that he played, he had some minutes. But they had a statement win against Bradley, who's 75th in KenPom.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came back and they turned around and they dropped a heartbreaking game to Murray State, who's 130. And then and Drake, who's 48th, that we just mentioned, the heartbreaker. And then they lost to Illinois State, who's 180. Like, you'd kind of expect them to beat Illinois State,
Yeah,
just based on how their season's been going. And it's just weird.
But I think that's I think that's just the Valley. I mean, you look,
Yeah.
Illinois State
Yeah.
just won against Indiana State.
True.
So they just beat Indiana State. So like,
Spoilers, dog.
but I mean, like, they can beat anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone. That's
Anyone
the
can
thing
beat
about
anyone.
this league is like, people talk about how like the Big Ten cannibalizes each other and everything, but like the Missouri Valley, they just seriously eat each other up. Like we were talking last week, and we said that like it was finally last week where we were like, okay, the 2-bid Missouri Valley is probably dead. And now it's like definitively like there's going to be one bid, and it's going to be the auto bid.
Yep.
Which sucks, but I think the Missouri Valley is just like tough, and
It's almost like the Big Ten was in the last few years, where everyone just beats up on everyone.
where it's like everyone's like
you're still gonna get 6 bids.
Yeah, you're like
but it's
one
like
game behind.
which 6 people are gonna get
You're
in? Because
one
it could
like
be
if
anyone.
you're 13-7, you're 7th place. But if you're or I get whatever it is.
Well, there was a 5-way tie for first place for a while at the end of the last
Yeah.
season. Like, yeah.
So like it just really just breaks your heart because they lose last week on a buzzer beater at Murray State. So it's like a win that would just carry you.
Mm-hmm.
And then they lose on a buzzer beater at home to Drake. So like you get those 2 games back, you're 8-8, and they could have picked up some more, on the early half of their schedule. But I mean, this is like a team that doesn't have the wins that it should, but is a team that you want to have on the opposite side of your bracket if you're in the Arch Madness. Like you do not want to see them. You want someone else to take them out. Like what's their last game at home against Indiana State?
That sounds right.
Like their last home game. Like the way Indiana State's been playing, Evansville can take this game.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. Just a tough week. Heartbreakers. Illinois State game they could have had. They were down big, right? Yeah, they were down like 30 to 15 when Illinois State was like shooting like 92% from the field.
Yeah.
So you can't win a game, especially in the Valley, if you're going to let them just shoot lights out and shoot above 90% or even 50%. If you get behind like that, you're probably going to lose the game, and that's what happened.
Yeah. I mean, a little bright side, though, is, it's safe to say this team outperformed their predictions.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like we talked about at the beginning of the season. They were predicted to go 11th. And we have maybe 4 conference wins. Currently at 6. They've got more. They're currently sitting in 10th place. So only outperforming by 1. But, I mean, I think that 10th place is pretty safe because they'd pretty much have to lose out to finish in 11th, which is a good sign. Like, again, you want them to finish higher, but they're taking steps, and Ragland is a guy that's gonna do positive things over the next few years with this team for sure.
Yeah, and I think every team makes the NBC tournament. So
They
should be.
They all,
I think the OVC and
the MAC
are the only ones you have to worry about.
That it is for sure that both every team does make the Arch Madness. Yep.
Let's talk about another team that didn't get a win this week. Let's talk about IU. They had the most of the week off. They go and have their game on Saturday against Northwestern, and they lose Sunday 76-72. So they went 0-1. They're 14-11 overall, and they're now 6-8 in the Big Ten. I mean, the only path to the tournament is winning the Big Ten tournament. There's
Correct.
no possible way that you get in without winning that.
Correct.
Which sucks because it was a rebuild year for Indiana, but they're struggling. They got in some good pieces, and it just hasn't worked out. Starting point guard's still out, Xavier Johnson. And it just shows that this team hasn't been healthy. You're down a scholarship, so you're already down to 12 people.
Yep.
You have your freshman guard who you thought was probably going to play a decent amount of minutes. He's out all year with an injury, medical redshirt, and then your 6th-year starter.
To clarify, that's Ja'Kai Newton.
Yeah, your starting point guard is out, so you're down to 10 scholarship players.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's not going to help. And then you just has some guys with just confidence issues that when they're on the court, they make silly mistakes. You've got a guy like Peyton Sparks who just didn't quite make the jump that everyone kind of thought.
Yeah, thought he could be like a serviceable backup to wear.
Yeah. I mean, in this game, Boo got in foul trouble early.
He was not good.
Which
all things considered.
Credit to, I think Gabe Cupps did a great job defending him. There were several times where even the fans cheered because Boo went to work on some ISO stuff and Gabe stayed with him, locked him down, and forced Boo to pass the ball. But he went out in the first half, and Northwestern played better without him.
Yeah.
Which it's wild to think about that they're playing with their 3 and 4 guards.
They're by far best player.
But, I mean, at the end of the day, coaches and players said it. They finished with energy. They were down. They went on a 11-2 run late with 3 minutes left, and the game was within reach.
Yeah.
And Northwestern was just hitting free throws to keep spreading the gap. Shot well, I thought. And when it comes to percentages,
yeah, they shot way better, but I don't know.
Northwestern just had way more shots.
Yeah, I don't know what the rebounding margin was,
I think it was
but it had to have been terrible.
39-38.
Oh, really?
Or 38-37, which surprised me. Because it felt like Northwestern was just getting...
Well, I
don't know what the offensive rebound... Yeah. I think that's where the scales tipped.
Well, they had it was 11-3 on turnovers, and I'm not sure how many points off turnovers, but
yeah,
it just... I don't know. I mean, this team needs to figure something out. It's, it's technically not too late because you can still win the Big Ten tournament, blah, blah, blah.
It's going to be a lot harder the farther they drop.
But it's just I don't remember exactly what we said our expectations were preseason, but it's been disappointing at least.
Yep.
Based on the roster that's constructed.
Yeah.
But they wore black jerseys, which I didn't like the look of them, but I didn't care that they were black jerseys.
A lot of hate on Twitter.
I want alternative jerseys for everyone.
Yeah.
Just,
I personally really liked the black jerseys.
I just thought,
especially when I saw them on the players.
I thought they looked better on the players, but I thought they just looked, I don't know, basic. There's just so much more you can do.
I mean, yeah, it's just
the
brand itself that did the partnership with Adidas is their minimalistic, simple stuff. So
I don't like Northwestern has their city, the Chicago city, the jerseys that are based on the Chicago flag and stuff.
Yeah.
And, I don't like them, but I like that they're very different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So keep doing alternate jerseys, keep doing fun things.
Tell you what though, that game was probably not the best look for their future with Adidas, because all of Adidas high-level execs were at the game and just saw Indiana losing, and
all the fans didn't like them. Well, they were very divisive.
Yeah. But anyways, let's talk about Indiana State. Made the top 10.
Oh my God, imagine.
Broke the top 25 after we had been vying for them for much of the season. They did go 0-2 this week, causing them to drop 5 spots and 13 spots. Math.
Yeah.
It's doing the math the opposite direction. They're 49th in KenPom. They were 36. They're still 22-5 overall. They're 13-3 in the Missouri Valley. Talked about it. Lost to Illinois State, 80-67. They lost at Southern Illinois, 84-79. It's tough because they didn't really get any AP votes until the last 3 weeks, I believe. Sadly, I think voters are probably sitting at home saying, "I told you so," which is not an accurate representation of what this team is. I think they are a much better team.
It'd be a lazy argument.
Right, I agree. I'm just saying if I were an AP voter that had hate on Indiana State, that's probably what I'd be thinking. Kind of like if I was voting on Texas and Texas dropped out. But we said it a few weeks ago. Teague is a concern.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what we saw this week.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, you're looking at any team that, I guess lives by the 3, dies by the 3. Thinking of a team like Alabama, takes a lot of threes.
Yep.
Thinking back to like the Crean era. When you have dudes who can shoot lights out. Like if the shots aren't falling and you don't play high level defense, it's gonna be really tough to win.
Yep.
So like this Illinois State game, they go 1 for 17 from 3 in the first half, and they finish 8 for 38, which is 21%, which is by far their worst offensive night. So is it fatigue? Is that short bench? You see like Mason Miller and I'm gonna come up with it. Bledson come off the bench and play. Bledson plays a lot, but like Mason Miller is getting like 5 minutes tops usually. So like that short bench is really hurting, I feel like, especially because in the second game where they were at Southern Illinois, Jason Kent, I think it was in the game before, he went out with concussion protocol. And so you're missing who I think is like the heart and soul, like the glue guy on this team.
Yeah.
And you drop one at Southern Illinois, have another bad shooting night, and you don't have that dog to, get you 12 rebounds.
Yep.
And set everybody up and do do all the dirty work. So kind of a bit of both.
I definitely do. I do think it is both, just because when you don't have a lot of depth, you don't play a lot of depth. Not that you don't have it. When you don't play a lot of depth, when your shots aren't falling, you don't have guys you can bring in off the bench just to try and get that spark back.
Yeah. You like,
so you have to play.
You just got to ride with your guys.
Yeah.
And like Swope has been having like a string of not great games, and maybe it's just a lull. Maybe it's just a lull in the offense, and in 2 weeks we're going to talk about this and be like, oh, dude, they just ran everybody off the floor in the NBC tournament and, had no problem.
Right.
So it could be, that. I don't think, I think the at-large bid is gone. Like, if you don't win the NBC tournament, you're not making it in, because the home loss to Illinois State was your first quad 3 loss, and you just don't have enough quad 1. I think they have maybe one quad 1 win. You don't have enough quad 1 wins to carry you into an at-large bid.
I think the Drake win is probably their only quad 1.
And so like people were, when people were talking about why is Indiana State like getting so much hype, like their resume isn't great. Like Butler had a better resume. Indiana State, had a better record.
Yep.
So it's the at-large bid is probably gone. Just try and regroup and recoup and heal. Finish the regular season, but then come on strong and finish that, NBC tournament, I guess is, kind of my thoughts for this team. But it sucks. It sucks, dude, because they've been so fun, and then all of a sudden
they still are fun.
Yeah,
they still are fun.
The shots just stopped falling.
There's still ball to be played.
I didn't want to experience heartbreak with this team. Like, what I wanted to experience heartbreak was like they're in the Sweet 16 and they're playing Baylor.
Yeah.
And like, okay. They need to hit like one more 3 and they win. That's what I wanted. Not, not this. So that can still come, but we'll talk about that when they get there. And I probably shouldn't even say this, but I did see a thing on Twitter that was like, since Indiana State has been ranked, like they have lost their last 3 ranked games. They lost these 2, and then they lost the national championship to Michigan State. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's move on. I mean, I think there's a lot of positives to still keep coming, especially if you get Jason Kent back.
Yep.
You'll feel good. IUPUI. IUPUI went 0-2 this week, unfortunately. They're 6-22 overall, and they're 2-15 in the Horizon League. They stayed at 361. Like we said, it's almost impossible for them to move to 362. I don't remember who's behind them. Who's in dead last?
It's a team in the SWAC.
Yes. And it's like not like a directional school, but it's like a state school with like an identifier.
Yes.
Anyway, so they lost to the thing that, so like you lose, you get boat raced in their second
Mississippi Valley State.
Yeah. So you lose your second game at Oakland, 107-59. So you get almost beat by 50 points, and you're like, okay, that's bad.
Yep.
And then you go, what else did they do this week? And you go, oh, they lost to Detroit Mercy 81-66. And you go, well, that's not that bad. They have Antoine Davis. He's going to put up 1,000 points. And you go, no, they hadn't won a game.
Yeah.
They were 0-26.
And think about like, there's a couple things that I never thought I would see. A court storm against IUPUI.
Yeah.
It's like, that's like number one on my list. You don't expect, because IUPUI is IUPUI, right?
Yeah.
We talked about it. They are second to last in Ken Palm, only to Mississippi Valley State, who, you know, is neither here nor there. But the crazy thing about that court storm, there's a couple crazy things.
Can you call it court? Can you call it, what would you call that?
One, Detroit was favored.
Yeah.
Which is
true.
a crazy, because you don't often see a court storm again with a favored team. It's usually an underdog.
Yeah.
Which on paper,
Unless it's like,
should Detroit have been an underdog? Maybe. But
yeah,
only one person stormed to the court. There may have only been like 5 fans in attendance.
there were like 800 or 600. I looked at this when I was
were
looking
there
at
actually?
this game.
Didn't look like there were that
There were
many.
a couple hundred.
So never mind. I was gonna say, if there were only 5 fans, like that's a great percentage of like 20% of your fans stormed to the court.
Yeah.
Looks
I mean,
great.
if I'm a Detroit Mercy student, like I'm locked, like I'm circling this game on my calendar. Like you're like, this is
especially once it
most
came out
winnable.
that we're favored. If
Yeah.
we being Detroit Mercy students,
Yes.
but yeah. But this game meant that there's only one unwon team. Unwon? Is that the
winless? Yeah, I'm on one.
we're not gonna talk. We're gonna just
I'm
move
on
past
one.
this. It means there's only one winless team left in the nation. And in my opinion, that team is the one team preventing IUPUI from being the worst team in the country.
Is that Missouri Valley State?
Missouri Valley State,
They're
yeah.
still on.
They're on 25. And
Yeah. This team, I don't know, man. I mean, Detroit Mercy was up by 20. Oakland beat you by almost 50. What is this, year 3 with Crenshaw?
I believe.
You know what? Maybe when they name change, they just kick those demons out. And like,
honestly,
they're like top 150 in Ken Palm.
I wouldn't go that far.
I'm dreaming.
Top
I'm dreaming.
300.
I'm dreaming.
I'll give them top 300.
Okay.
I'll-
You know, IUPUI Jags fans, you know, I was here. I was
it
here
is
when
Crenshaw's third year.
I was with you shooting in the gym, you know.
But in his 3 years, they have only gotten better. His first season, 3-26. Second season, 5-27. They are currently 6-22.
Yeah, and I
So
think
that's positive
and
progress.
he would have inherited his like year that he started would have been the year after they were holding open tryouts. I think
a year or two.
Yeah. So like, you know, it's not like he inherited. It's not like Chris Holtman inheriting, you know, a Thad Mata team or Juwan Howard inheriting a John Beeline team. Like he got this thing on at rock bottom.
They did have 5 less wins in Crenshaw's first year than they did in the final year under their previous coach.
Oh, well,
Byron Rim.
Well, we'll
anyways,
see. But
positive progress for
yeah,
the Jags.
let's talk about our first team this week to get a win and have a, you know, no losses this week. Notre Dame. Dirty thing about this is they went down in Ken Palm by 1. They're 154. They were 153 going into the week. So they went 1-0, 9-16 overall, and 4-10 in the ACC. So they got a win over Georgia Tech at home, 58-55. And this is the 3rd time this season that they've won back-to-back games. They've never won 3 in a row. And the last time they did this was Marist, Marist Virginia games back-to-back, right after the Citadel lost by 20. So like the absolute craziest sequence. You lose to the Citadel by 20, you beat Marist, and then you're like, all right, well, Virginia scheduled loss, and then you beat them by 20.
Yep.
You know who their next game is? They are underdogs in this game.
I do know who the next game is.
Who is it?
It's Virginia. No, it's Louisville.
It's Louisville.
Yep.
They can get their first 3-game winning streak.
Yeah, but it is still unfortunate that there is a path where Notre Dame does finish last in the ACC. I don't think it's realistic, but looking at their remaining schedule, it could happen. It makes me sad to think about because I do love this team, but I do think we're gonna see a 3-game win streak.
What are they right now in the ACC?
I can tell you. Tell me about the
Louisville
game.
has to be last, right? 15th.
Yes. Tell me. Tell me about the game, and I will tell you.
So
where
Marcus
they're currently
Burton was great again. I mean, he had 18 points, 5 assists, 5 steals, and Tay Davis is great as well. He had 17 points. They won the second chance points battle, and the thing that's crazy about this is like the second half, they just could not shoot the ball. Like the first half, they couldn't shoot the ball either, but like they went 4 for 16 from 3.
Mm-hmm.
They made 1 3-pointer in the second half, and like 19%. Like they won the game going 19% from 3 and 31% from 3. Georgia Tech was 45% from the field and 33% from 3. The difference is Notre Dame made 11 more free throws. And they had some, pretty good stats. Like they tied their season high in offensive rebounds, season high in second chance points, and their highest free throw attempts. So they got to the line, and you send Marcus Burton to the line with a chance to win the game, and he's going to win the game. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Ices 2 free throws down the stretch.
Notre Dame is third to last.
Okay, let me guess this. So Louisville is last.
Yep. Who's between Notre Dame and Louisville?
Georgia Tech.
Correct. It's crazy because Notre Dame 4-10 in the conference, Georgia Tech 4-11 in the conference, Louisville 3-12. The team directly above Notre Dame, Miami. Wild to think about.
Final Four last year.
Final Four team last year. They are 6-9.
Huh.
So a couple games ahead of Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame
they're 2 games back.
Would
to
move
that
up.
then. Yeah.
But another thing too. So here's a question. We know Burton's fun to watch. We love him.
Yeah.
Indiana Mr. Basketball. Great for the state that he stayed in the state. There's no university transfers, right?
I don't think so. I mean,
like, even if he did throw his name out there, I think Shrewsbury is doing whatever it takes to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, that's a guy you have to have.
But it's just something I was thinking about just because he is far and away the best player on this team.
Mm-hmm.
He is the best player on what some people would say a bad team.
Yeah.
It's Shrewsbury's first year.
And you
with
could
the
wonder,
program,
coming out of high school, obviously he's undersized. Like, did he prove enough to move up? But I mean, I don't know. I think he kind of, he's from the area.
Yep.
He obviously stayed committed.
Yeah.
He
after Bray
knew
left.
what he was getting into, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think so.
I don't think it's so realistic either. It's just a hypothetical that I thought about, and I've got another hypothetical with Purdue Fort Wayne.
Okay. Let's talk about him.
Who moved down in KenPom, 175 from 172. They went 1-1. Another team that got a win this week.
Our second of 2, or second of 3.
They are 17-10, 500 in the conference at 8-8. Lost to Oakland. Oakland just was not a fan of Indiana this week. They said, "We come into town, we're gonna run you out of town." They lost 71-63, and then PFW ended Detroit Mercy's win streak with a win 83-69.
You looking at me?
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, Oakland just smoked you. They killed you on the glass. They killed you in bench points. A couple of people struggled in this game. Like Bello had 15 and Quentin Morton Robertson had 14. But like Quentin Morton Robertson didn't shoot well. Like he was like 3 of 11 from 3. I mean, I don't know. I thought that we were going to be in a point where like Oakland and Purdue Fort Wayne were, like this game was going to be like, who's going to win the conference?
Yeah. Like
this was going to be like have stakes.
Yep.
And unfortunately it just didn't because, they're trying to claw their way back from 8, they were 7-7. They were 7-7 at this point. Yep. They lose this game, so they go 7-8. And I don't have the top of my head what Oakland is, but they should be closer to that point.
Yeah. Oakland, they had the same overall record. They have the same overall record currently, I believe.
I'll find it for you.
I think Oakland has a much better.
Yeah. Let's talk about Detroit Mercy. That is, if there's ever been a cannot lose game, it's that game. You cannot lose that game.
Oakland is 13-4.
Yeah, they're first in the Horizon League. They're a half a game above, past Green Bay.
Yep.
But you literally cannot lose this game. Like, you dropped one at home to IUPUI, which should not have happened. You cannot then also lose to Detroit Mercy.
Yep.
Like, you got,
especially after Detroit Mercy got their first win.
Yeah.
You can't put them on a 2. You cannot be the team that makes Detroit Mercy have a 2-game win streak.
Yeah. Like, it's less pressure, obviously, than playing them when they're winless.
Yep.
But still, you can't lose to that team. And they didn't. They took care of business. And now that Quentin Morton Robertson in this game, he moved up to 7th in the program history for single 3-pointers in a season with 80. And they guaranteed that they're going to have a winning season this year. They're going to be above 500 even if they lose every single game. So good for John Kaufman and the Dons.
Speaking of Kaufman, we already know we're going to talk about it a little bit later. It seems like this season there's going to be a major coaching carousel. This off season. Several open jobs currently. Wow, to think about with the season still several weeks away. Again, we'll talk about those openings here shortly. But is there a world where Kaufman takes a job bump? We'll call it a bump. Just moves up. He's only had 2 losing seasons in his 10 seasons with the Dons. To me, he seems like a lifer. Talking to him, we've had several conversations with him. He just seems like a guy that's going to stay there till he retires. But his resume shows. I mean, he's been successful. The only thing he doesn't have is a tournament win, right?
It's like an NCAA tournament appearance.
Yeah, NCAA tournament
but the
appearance.
Program doesn't have one at all.
Right. So it's like, is there with all of the Power 6 schools having openings, not all of them, but like with all of the openings in that Power 6.
Yeah, the carousel is going to be moving.
And then there's a bunch of mid-majors who their coaches could realistically make that jump up. Could Kaufman then, move into more of a mid-major job? I don't think so. I love the guy. I think he's great for Purdue Fort Wayne. I think he's great for Fort Wayne.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just something I was thinking about while I was thinking about, especially with all these jobs that are opening up and are likely to open up.
I mean, I have no idea.
It's all just speculation, right?
I've never thought about it. I mean, he was the Summit League Coach of the Year 2015, 2016. So, I mean, it's possible, but I don't know. I mean, he's been here so long. His kids have grown up here and everything. So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see. I'm not gonna speculate on him leaving because I want him to stay.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about Purdue. So for like the second or third time this season, they've moved in KenPom. So they're third right now. They moved down from 2, which, not looking, I'm going to say that it's probably Arizona or UConn who moved up above them in KenPom.
I believe it's UConn.
And so they went 1-1 this week, 23-3 overall and 12-3 in the Big Ten. Had a come from behind win against Minnesota at home, and then they lost at Ohio State 73-69. So not a great week because
they were down most of that game against Ohio State.
Yeah. Like
down
Ohio
big.
State were in control pretty much.
Yeah.
And like that Minnesota game, they were up. Purdue was down 8, and then like Ben Johnson got a tech, and then things kind of switched over, and Braden Smith and Zach Edey kind of came on in the second half. Like Smith was an assist and 2 boards away from a triple double. He was 16, 9, and 8 again. Like, he's close. It's gonna happen, but it's like you look at that game and you're like, okay, did they just not get up for Minnesota, or is Minnesota better than we thought? and then they followed up with a stinker at Purdue or at Ohio State, and it kind of puts another interesting wrinkle in the who's better, UConn or Purdue argument.
I think that UConn is far and away the best team in the country.
I don't think it's far and away.
I just think it's UConn and then everyone else. Like in my opinion, watching them play, that's just kind of where I'm at with things.
I think it's like you've got like UConn, like tier 1A.
Yep.
And Purdue tier 1B. And then you've got, like that next group of like Arizona or whatever
Houston,
we'll talk about. But like this is a game that scares me as like someone who watches Purdue, where like Edie had foul trouble and like Lawyer was like not super great.
Mm-hmm.
And like Lance, like the team was 3 of 9 in the Ohio State game from 3, and like Lance Jones hit 3 of them.
Yeah.
So all of them,
Yep.
It's bad. I mean, you get kind of unlucky because you're playing Ohio State, who just fired Chris Holtmann. We kind of buried the lead there.
Yep.
They just fired Chris Holtmann on like Wednesday after they lost to Wisconsin. And then you go and like sometimes when they fire a coach, the team gets kind of fired up and they rally around that assistant who got promoted in the meantime. And like maybe that's what happened here. So Purdue's just got to bounce back. And
I will say Ohio State did they committed a crime punishable by death, and nobody's talking about it. They had students behind the scorer's table that painted their shirts and chests that said "Perdon't." And I think that Painter and Rodney Terry should like file a petition or something to get those students removed. And all students, all fans that do that removed.
Yeah, you're not allowed to say anything negative.
Yeah.
Or hand motion anything negative.
All of the above. Yeah. So just wanted to throw that out there. I do think that Purdue probably drops to 3 in the AP polls.
Who is
Houston?
3? Houston. Yeah. I think so.
A couple big wins this week.
And Marquette took a loss, so they won't. In Arizona, I assume would be up there, but
yeah,
they'll probably go to 3.
Well, Adam, we talked about some death crimes. Would you like to talk about Southern Indiana?
Yes, I would. So, I like Southern Indiana.
I do too. They're fun,
and I like just their mascot. Like Archie.
Eagles?
Yeah. Archie, the Screaming Eagle. They've got a couple, they've got the one that's just like the bird head profile. Yeah. I like the one that's like the actual whole Archie.
Yep.
I need that on a hat. So if someone can hook me up with, I have not seen any of those online. So if someone can hook me up with one of those Archie hats, I would love it. But they are not alone this week in taking a rough week. They went 0-2. They're 7-20 overall, and 4-10 in the Ohio Valley. So they stay the same in Ken Palm. So they got that to say at least. So I mean,
not mad about it.
It's a win in some way, but they lost to UT Martin, and then they 77-68, and then they lost at Little Rock 80-62. So Little Rock has now beat 2 of the teams we cover.
Yep, I think they beat Ball State.
They destroyed Ball State because Ball State, it was like Ball State's like first true road game or something.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I do think that Southern Indiana needed one this week to help with their Ohio Valley Conference tournament standings. They're currently in 8th. Top 8 teams make the tournament.
Yep.
They're still projected to finish 2-2 this season. They're currently tied in 8th with Tennessee Tech, who's projected to finish 1-3. That's a good sign. Obviously, projections are projections. They're not always right. I mean, think about Purdue is projected to win every game this season. They've lost a couple. So what I don't know is if both teams finish with the same record. I don't know how that would work because they've split the season 1-1.
Who?
Southern Indiana and Tennessee Tech.
They have the tiebreaker on Tennessee Tech.
But how?
I don't know.
They're 1-1. That's just what I. That's just what I don't know. It probably
is. So if they're 1-1, it probably is whoever has the win over the best
other team.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's probably what it is. But I know they do have the tiebreaker over.
That's
Tennessee
just something
Tech.
that I was looking at, and thinking about, just because it sucks that we've got two teams, Ball State and then Southern Indiana, who there is a chance they don't even make their conference
tournament. Their season just ends in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to just not be talking about them. Yeah. It's weird. We cover all 11 basketball programs, not all 9.
Yeah.
Right.
The thing about their remaining schedule is they have to play Moorhead and they have to play Western Illinois, who are either tied or first and second in the league.
Yeah.
But then they end up with, they finish with Lindenwood and SEMO, who are
below
bottom.
them. Yeah.
So, if they go, like you said, if they finish their projection, if they can win one of those games, they're definitely going to be 8th or better. So, I don't know. AJ Smith had a good game against Little Rock. He went for 25-9. He had 17-9 in the game against UT Martin, and Jeremiah Hernandez had 25 in that game. They just got to find a way to get to the OVC tournament, for 2 reasons. One, because I think that they can knock some teams off because they played a lot of teams close.
Yep.
And the tournament is in Evansville. It's at the Ford Center.
Didn't realize that. That's interesting.
Yeah, the OVC tournament is at the Ford Center.
Ford Center is a beautiful arena.
Yeah. So
been there.
It's interesting, that it's there. So it's in town.
Yep.
That is advantageous to them because they can stay in their beds, and everything.
They'll still probably stay in a hotel.
You think so? I mean, it's Evansville ain't that big.
Yeah, but
I would want everything to be do you want to simulate a tournament setting, or do you want everything to be as normal as possible and be we're just playing a home game in a different arena?
You want that, but I feel like the conference would override.
I feel not at this level though.
Oh, because they wouldn't want to spend the money.
Yeah, they're too small.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Either way.
So that's nice.
Yeah.
So if they can make it, and the second reason is so that I can pull up the receipts from that dude on Twitter who said that they weren't even going to make the tournament and prove him wrong when I said that they're going to make some noise. But let's talk about our last team. Valparaiso went down in Ken Palm, 289 now from 287. They went 0-2, like many teams, 6-21 overall, and 2-14 in the Missouri Valley, and they just have the downside of being in the Missouri Valley.
Yep.
In a rebuild year where they're trying to rebuild for, years to come.
Yeah.
So they lost to Northern Iowa 86-67, and they lost at Missouri State 82-74. So
yeah, I mean, they do the really cool thing. They could see Northern Iowa 2 more times this season. They end of the season, their second to last game is against them. And then, assuming standings stay as they are right now, will they? Who knows? But if the standings stay like they are, Valpo is will be the 12 seed in Arch Madness. Northern Iowa would be the 5 seed. The 12-5 would face off the first round. I think that works in Valpo's favor because you've got a coach like Roger Powell who has coached elite level basketball, made several tournaments. He's the guy that can make an adjustment regardless of what the outcome of the second Northern Iowa game is. I think that works in their favor, and that'd be something that I'm watching out for.
So you don't think they're not going to be an easy out in the tournament for sure?
I think either way, they're not going to be an easy out.
Mm-hmm.
One, because I just think that any team that plays them is going to be it's Valpo, so they'll walk in the park.
Yeah.
And 2, if they do play Northern Iowa, I think that works in that favor, having played them 2 times already.
Yeah. Something that happened this week is Isaiah Stafford. So if you include his junior college years, which the NCAA does not, which is unfortunate, he's eclipsed the 1,000 points scored mark.
Heck yeah.
So good for him, man. I mean, they don't count JUCO, but we do. Ball is ball, dude.
Ball is ball.
And then Darius DiVero became the second Valpo player in the last 15 years to notch a points assist double-double. So he had, what do you have? 11 and 10. So good for him.
I'll raise you one that he became the first Valpo player to go a full 40 minutes in a regulation game since, I believe, 2022.
He's an old guy who Roger Powell can definitely lean on to support this team with the the young pieces that they've got, and definitely going to be helpful to teach the players what they need to do in the coming years.
Yep. So here's a question for you, Adam. We talked about it. Not a lot of teams won. It was a far and away our worst week of the season. But if you had to narrow it down to one player, one person that shined above the rest, a diamond in the rough, so to speak, who would you pick as your Week 15 Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week?
Jimmy Chitwood this week is you, the listener at home. Just kidding. Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week, Week 15, is back-to-back Marcus Burton, or should I say Marcus Burtham from Notre Dame. He had 18 points, 5 assists, 5 steals, 1 block in their win against Georgia Tech. So he helped them complete the season sweep of Georgia Tech.
Yep.
And ACC Freshman of the Year award incoming.
If he doesn't win it, he's won 2 Jimmy Chitwoods, and that probably means a little more. And I will even say that that 1 block, probably the most impressive stat.
Yeah.
It's 5'7".
Little guy.
5'8".
5'7" sounds better when you say he got a block, so we'll run with that.
Yeah.
And he led the team, he led the team in the season sweep of Georgia Tech. So good for you, Marcus Burton. Back-to-back, only our second back-to-back consecutive weeks behind Malik Renew from Indiana. So good for you, man. Good for you. Let's talk about next week, Gerald.
I hope it is a better week.
Jesus.
It sucks because we automatically will have 1 loss already chalked up. We do have an in-state matchup, Valpo versus Indiana State. Indiana State travels to the Arc on the 21st.
Yeah, so either Valpo or Indiana State will lose because we never established, but we decided last time that we think that they just let you play overtimes till someone wins. So one of them will lose.
Yeah.
Indiana State is favored in that game for what it's worth. They're favored by 14.
Yep.
So,
which I'd think it'd be a little bit higher, but
the way they've been, this past week.
True.
But everyone's past week.
Yeah.
The one I'm looking forward to, Jaron, is Louisville playing against Notre Dame. Louisville's favored by 2, but Notre Dame can win this game. They should win this game.
They need to win this game.
Yeah, I think Sky Clark is injured out for the season for Louisville. So that helps.
Doesn't ring a bell.
And if that's true, then that's nice. And they could get their first 3-game win streak.
Yep, and we do have a lot of must-win games, in my opinion, this week for a variety of reasons. Ball State being one of them. 2 must-win games. They're looking to complete the season sweep on both Northern Illinois and Eastern Michigan. Both teams are below them in the MAC standings, so it doesn't necessarily help their cause to bump up
cushion,
but it gives them a cushion for sure. They did beat Northern Illinois by 10 at Worthen in late January, and they beat Eastern Michigan by 14 at their place. Against Northern Illinois, they are on the road. They are 1-point dogs, so the stats say it'll be close. And like I said, Ball State needs to pull it off, really. They are 8-point favorites at home against Eastern Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
so looking to complete the season sweep on both those teams and build that cushion.
I think both of Southern Indiana's games are important. They have 2, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Western Illinois, who's in Morehead State, who are top of the conference.
Yep.
So if you can steal one of those, they're both away, so they'll be tough. But if you can steal one of those, then you're feeling really good about getting into the OVC tournament, and that is Like you get the 8th spot, like that's a successful season.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yep. And then last few games that I have to look out for are Butler's games. They play at Villanova, where they are 7-point dogs. They play at Seton Hall, where they're 2-point dogs. I just think they're we talked about it. Their resume took a bit of a hit last week, and these two games could be really beneficial to build that resume because they'd both be considered quad one as things currently stand. So pull a win, pull 2 wins ideally, but if they can steal a win against either of those teams, which I think that they can.
Yeah, you got to win one more on the road that's not DePaul to make the tournament. Like you got to be 500 in the Big East.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the other 49, with the exception that we will briefly touch on Purdue.
Yeah, dude, come on. So if you're plugged into college basketball, you might have seen that on Saturday at like 12:30 or something, they released so they do like the top 16 seeds. So, the 1 through 4 seeds for each region.
Yep.
And that was released. And good news for the state of basketball at the time is Purdue was the number 1 overall seed. So that meant that Purdue got their choice of region, which would obviously be the Midwest. And unfortunately, that will probably change because Purdue then took a loss and UConn absolutely dismantled the 7th. I guess that would be the 5th best team on here, Marquette, according to the committee. So Purdue will probably move to the 2 spot. I don't think they would slide to the 3 spot, but the number 1 seeds as of when the committee decided were Purdue in the Midwest, UConn in the East, Houston in the South, and Arizona in the West. I think that is about what I expected.
Yeah.
I think you could argue Marquette could be up there in the, on the one line, but they're close and you could put Arizona in the West. Marquette would probably rather be in a different region, but the 2 lines are Tennessee, North Carolina, Marquette, and Kansas. The 3 line is Baylor, Iowa State, Alabama, Duke, and then the 4 seeds are San Diego State, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Auburn.
Love to see, personally, three Big Ten teams, the top 16. I think that's good for the brand, especially in a year where a lot of people probably don't think many Big Ten teams are going to make the tournament as at-larges. So
yeah, but like looking at it from like a Indiana perspective, Purdue has a win over Arizona, another 1 seed. They have a win over Tennessee, 2 seed. They have a win over Marquette, another 2 seed. They have a win over Wisconsin, and they have and Illinois, who are both 4 seeds. So, like when you're talking about like part of the reason why Purdue was the number 1 overall seed is because they had those giant wins.
Yeah.
They just have like their wins are better than UConn's, but their losses are worse than UConn's.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And they just have more in general.
Yeah. Now they do. Now they have 3 and UConn's still at 2. So I don't know, anything jump out to you? Like if you're looking at, I guess now you're looking at swap Purdue and UConn, right?
I think so. I think that's reasonably,
or maybe, I mean, UConn would still want to stay in the East.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. I don't know how it would work out, but let's just talk about it as it lies.
Yeah.
As when it released. So Purdue, their region would be Purdue as the 1 seed, Tennessee as the 2, Baylor as the 3, and San Diego State as the 4. Do any of those scare you as like a Purdue thing? You already beat Tennessee, and it was the literal worst game I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I think that game scares me a little bit just because I think Tennessee
is going to make it ugly.
Baylor, that interests me.
Yeah.
That game is something that Baylor can score. We know Purdue can score.
Yeah.
Can Purdue's defense hold Baylor to less points than Baylor's defense holds Purdue?
I think the matchup would be two very different teams.
Yeah.
And it would be like whichever team gets to play the way they want to play is going to win.
Yeah. I think that game, San Diego State, I think I've said it before, I think they can beat anyone on any given night.
Mm-hmm. But they've been up and down.
Yeah, I just don't think that they would beat Purdue.
Yeah.
I think they can beat a lot of other teams on this slate. It's just, I think that Baylor one is what stands out to me as what would be the most fun to watch.
Yeah, but I mean, you're looking like Purdue. If I'm Purdue, like teams that I want to avoid, like I'm not really scared of Kansas. Like
no,
Zach Edey's gonna eat Hunter Dickinson's lunch. North Carolina could be interesting just because you've got like RJ Davis going against Braden Smith. That could be tough.
Yeah.
Not that I don't think Braden Smith's good, but like RJ Davis is first team All-American level right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not really scared of Wisconsin, not really scared of Illinois. Auburn, kind of scary.
That is
if you get like
scariest of
if you get like
here.
Auburn on their best day.
Yep.
Like that's tough.
Yeah.
I forgot this one. You beat Alabama already.
Yep.
So not really scared of them. Iowa State, I'm probably a little bit nervous about just because of the way they play, but Duke, not really. So there's like in the top 4 seeds, there's not really a ton that I'm worried about for Purdue.
Mm-hmm. The Duke matchups would be interesting with Kyle Filipowski up against Edey, just because they're two very different bigs.
I almost wonder if they would like play Filipowski on the 4, play him against Kaufman Wren, and just kind of have someone at the 5 eating fouls.
Probably,
guarding him, and then
let
Filipowski
just eat.
Let him stretch out Edey from the 3-point line.
That's what would be. Yeah, that's like what I
phrasing.
What I think about. But let's
move on. So I mean, that obviously is not set in stone, but that was something that we were interested in looking at, especially because like Purdue is in this field, and like there's no scenario on earth like they could lose out and still be a top 4 seed because they have so many good wins.
Yep.
But it was like a week of firings. Two of the Power 6 head coaches were fired this week. Today, when we recorded this, Jerry Stackhouse got fired from Vanderbilt. No one really cares, I guess.
You texted me about it, and I was like, where did you see this at? Because I didn't. None of the media folks that I follow like said anything. I had to go to Vanderbilt basketball's account.
And like it was just like a statement, and that was it. Chris Holtmann obviously got fired at Ohio State, and I mean, I guess on paper got better. Fired their coach, beat the number 2 team in the country.
I think Dabler's got some job security maybe.
And then I wrote this twice. I wrote the wrong person. And Tony Stubblefield got fired at DePaul.
Yep.
So that was obviously earlier. The interesting thing about this is all of this happened while Kenny Payne's still at Louisville.
And I thought about this. I think it's largely because these other teams have an assistant that they would trust to like fill the interim role. And I think at Louisville, it's just like they need to start fresh.
Well, apparently they asked Danny Manning, I think is on the bench there.
Yeah.
They asked him if he would like step in, and he was like, no.
Yeah.
Like,
I just don't think
good.
I just don't think anyone wants that on their resume.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there's jobs opening. I mean, obviously if you're listening to this and you're interested in Indiana State, like Josh Schertz is one of the names who's been floated at DePaul.
Yep.
So like that's something to keep an eye on. DePaul is probably the hardest Power 5 job in the country. So not next year. Not next year. It's not.
Yeah.
So it's probably the hardest one to go to.
It's got the highest ceiling though, I think.
Out of these ones that are available.
I think when you think about like NIL and
I just don't think they have like any NIL budget. I don't
you
see
have
them
the
taking
potential
the job.
I don't.
I just don't see him taking the job.
Yeah.
And like now all of a sudden, like all the Indiana Doomers are like, Dusty May loses 2 games. He starts losing in the American, and they're like, "What's going on in Terre Haute? How you doing?"
Yeah.
It's like, dude, just stop. Let Shirts decide. And like, obviously he's been asked about it. And, he's like, obviously I'm focusing on this team. So good for him. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm not, until I see things and people are saying things, I'm not going to pay any attention to that.
People are always saying things.
People are always saying things. People do be saying. Yeah. So really the only notable game on Monday was Texas Tech beat number 6 Kansas 79-50. And Darian Williams dropped 30 points and was 12 for 12 from the field, which is the most for a Texas Tech player ever, being, 30 and 10 and perfect in the past 25 seasons. So that's impressive.
Yeah.
Like, that's the most shots without missing for Texas Tech. Like, good for him.
Yeah. Tuesday, we had a top 10 North Carolina, number 7, lost at Syracuse 86-79.
There you go, John. John Nolan, your Syracuse Orange won. I'm proud.
And then, like we talked about, Ohio State lost to Wisconsin and then fired Chris Holtmann. So kind of weird to loss to take and then fire him right then, because Wisconsin is a good team. But I think the writing was just on the wall.
I think they were like, just one more loss, and we'll do it.
Yeah.
Come on, boosters. If he loses again, we promise.
And then New Mexico beat Nevada by 1, both of which could be a tournament team. So that'd be fun.
I have a free throw for you on these 2 teams, New Mexico and Nevada. So my free throw for you, Jaron, is, what do these 2 coaches have in common? What do the New Mexico and Nevada coaches have in common? Do you want me to tell you who they are? Give you a refresher. New Mexico is currently coached by Richard Pitino, and Nevada is currently coached by Steve Alford. What do they have in common?
They both worked under Knight, played under Knight.
Nope. Alford did, but I don't know. I don't think Pitino played anywhere.
I don't think he did either, actually.
So kind of 2 things. They both coached in the Big Ten. Alford coached at Iowa, and Pitino coached at Minnesota. But the real connection is they both coached at New Mexico. So Alford coached at New Mexico, and now Pitino is there. But I thought that was
a little bit of a stretch.
I thought that was
coach in the Big Ten at the same time.
Yeah,
so
but
a little bit of a stretch.
But they both have
Big Ten ties.
I mean, the thing that for me was like, Pitino is playing a guy who literally coached the same team that he is coaching right now. So I thought that was interesting.
That's pretty neat.
Wednesday, Auburn, 13 at the time. Auburn beat 11 South Carolina, 101-61. I picked South Carolina to cover this game. I was wrong.
A little bit.
I think I even moved. I was like, they're gonna lose by like 9. Not even close.
Yeah, the spread was 11.5, and you moved.
And
it to
I
9.5.
moved it to 9. That was stupid for me. And they were tied for second in the SEC.
I think I texted you during that game, and I was like, "How's that spread looking?" And I think South Carolina was like kind of making moves.
No, I was joking because then I said something. I was like, it's looking as good as whatever bet you had made for something that didn't look nearly as terrible, but also was not going to hit. So Auburn was just...
We're not a gambling show, though.
Auburn was just coming off of a 15-point loss at Florida, so good bounce-back game.
Yep. Thursday, Little Rock beat Morehead State, which brought them 2 games back. Brought them to 2 games back in the SEC and tied for second. So
yeah, Morehead State's got a big lead there.
Yeah,
at least at the time. I don't know what happened since.
Yeah.
Friday, Toledo beat Ohio by 2, which got them to be half a game back from Akron in the MAC. So a little action for you. Not that those games are impacting if Ball State makes the MAC tournament, but nice to know. If you're like, where's my action? Here's your action.
There it is. Yeah, and then Saturday, a lot happened. Large slate of games. UConn beat Marquette, like we said, absolutely rolled them 81-53. Like I said, UConn might actually be the best team in the country. Like,
I wrote that down. I wrote that down on Saturday night. I was like, UConn might be the best team in the country. They smoked Marquette.
Yeah.
Like, it was at home. It was it was in stores or whatever, but like,
still. Yeah.
They cooked them.
Yeah. Then Wisconsin, the collapse just continues. Lost 5 of the last 6. Lost to Iowa and over. The one win in that last 6 is Ohio State. I'd count that as 2 wins, though, because they got Ohio State to fire their coach. So
and
there's
then,
one way to look at it.
Icing
on the cake.
You know the meme from Thor Ragnarok where
this is a deep cut, dog.
Yeah, where Hela's like, you can't defeat me, and Thor's like, I know, but he can. It's like, that's like Wisconsin talking to Purdue. Purdue's like, you can't defeat me, and Wisconsin's like, but he can, pointing to Ohio State.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And then we had some free basketball. Well, I guess it's all free for us because we watch on TV, but
no, we pay. Sorry, you pay, I pay you.
You're right. You're right.
You're my cable. Jaron the cable guy.
Jerry the cable guy.
Nice.
Colorado won at South. Wow.
South California.
Southern California. USC in double overtime. And then we also had our 2 guess the games of last week. The feline battle in the jungle. Kentucky won at Auburn by 11 after Auburn had just beat South Carolina by 40. So Auburn just didn't have the juice. They let it all on the line for that bounce back win. And the Flying Rams, Dayton beat Fordham by 8. Another thing that happened Saturday, kind of college adjacent.
In the state.
It's
in the, we're the state of basketball. If it happens.
Yeah. So the All-Star game, holy shit, I just checked the score of the current
Is
All-Star
the over
game.
400 going to hit?
No, it's 166 to 188 with 4 to go. It's gonna be tough, but the East is winning. So shout out to the East.
Wait. I need a Hallie update.
Yeah. So Tyrese Halliburton currently has 24 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists. He is the 3rd highest scorer behind Jaylen Brown and Dame at 33.
I was really hoping
on the East.
I was hoping for a Hallie.
He is the 5th
MVP,
6th highest scorer overall. SGA has 31. Karl Anthony Towns Cat has 32.
Let me digress further. Did you see the video of Hallie on JJ Redick's podcast?
No.
Where they were talking. He was asking him about the ball situation with Giannis.
Yeah.
And like, he was like, what happened there? And Halliburton was basically saying like, dude, I was on the floor the whole time. And he was just like yelling at me like, you need to get this ball. He's like, I've been here the whole time. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's the right ball. And then he was like, it has been proven that they had the ball the whole time. They had the right ball. Like, we grabbed that backup ball. But I don't know. Halliburton content always hits.
Always. He's a star. After he won the skills challenge today, I believe, he hit a half-court shot to win it, and he did the Reggie choke.
Cold.
Emote.
Ice cold. Did you just say emo in a real life situation? He emoted.
Tell me that's not the equivalent of what that was, though.
I mean, I guess.
But anyway, Saturday we had a 3-point challenge between Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu, who is a women's college basketball great. To me, one of the best 5 women's college basketball players of all time. Only player with 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 1,000 assists. She decided they did a 1-on-1 3-point contest. She decided to play from the NBA 3-point line instead of the WNBA 3-point line. Lost by 3. And what I liked the most was after the game, she said, if you can shoot, you can shoot. Doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy. I think it just matters the heart that you have. which one, seeing a female baller like that, one, women's basketball, the WNBA and college women's basketball are growing substantially. And I think it's just inspiration to little girls who might be intimidated to play basketball against boys. That's pretty cool that there's a little bit of a college connection. Obviously, Steph Curry played at Davidson, but I think that Sabrina had a more storied collegiate career than Steph. And Steph is regarded as the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. And he even said there were times when he was going into where he was nervous. He's like, going into that, I was like, I kind of had some nerves.
Shooters shoot, man.
But then,
shooters shoot.
It all worked out. But
shout out to our guy Luke, who's not listening. His school that he went to for a couple semesters, South Florida, beat Florida Atlantic by 4. So FAU was down by 25 and came back to only lose by 4. So
they were 18.5-point favorites, though.
Yeah. What seed will FAU be? No idea. Before this game, they were like a 7 seed on bracket matrix. But they've got some quad 3 and quad 4 losses. They have a win over Zona, and like they have some good wins,
and we've seen they don't need a high seed to make a run.
Yeah, but like they were underseeded last year. Like, are they going to be overseeded this year just because of their name? I don't know. But FAU is now 3rd in the American, so they made the jump up to the American this year. And you figure like, oh, Memphis is going to win the American because Houston's gone. No, Memphis is 5 games back of USF. So USF is in 1st, and FAU is 2 games back from that. So it might be USF's to win. And then Memphis got boat raced by SMU by 27.
Yeah, it happens. But our game of the day series moves on.
Week 17 games? Yes.
Week 16 games.
Week 16? Mm-hmm. Yep.
16 games. Our Monday game of the day. Got number 10 Iowa State at number 3 Houston, 9 p.m. They're both tied for first in the Big 12. Kansas probably will not be winning this year, which feels weird, but it's kind of awesome. I also think it's funny that Houston left the American, and everyone was like, "Oh, Houston's going to a good conference.
They're not going to win.
They're not going to do well. They're not going to be as dominant."
Yeah,
they have been.
Yeah,
pretty much.
It's Houston. The regular Big 12 powerhouses, Houston and Iowa State playing each other.
Oh yeah.
To see who wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think Kansas is behind the 8 ball here. Tuesday, our game of the day is number 1 and will still be number 1 UConn at number 17 Creighton at 8:30. UConn just destroyed Marquette, but they're playing at Creighton, and going on the road is tough unless you're Butler playing Creighton or Marquette, apparently. But they look like the best team in America. They're playing like the best team in America. So they should win this game. But
how many times in one podcast can we talk about a team not in the state of Indiana being the best team in America?
Dude, when you got a team that could go back to back for the first time since Florida, you got to talk about them.
I think it's
we love ball.
We love ball. We do be loving ball. And the ball that I love, Wednesday night, our game of the day, Florida at Alabama. Alabama is currently, at the time of recording, 15th in the nation. This game is at 7 p.m. Florida did smoke Auburn earlier in the season at home. Really could make the SEC race interesting if Bama loses. So that's we love shakeups like that this late in the season.
Thursday, our game is Washington State at number 5 Arizona at 11 p.m. So I'm going to assume that this is on the Pac-12 network, which
every Pac-12
which I don't
Pac-12
get.
Network. Yeah.
So
I don't even know how to get.
I've heard legends that some Samsung refrigerators have the Pac-12 network.
I have heard such legends.
So
I guess I need to buy a new refrigerator by Thursday.
You're going to go into Lowe's and you're going to be like, so does this have crushed ice? Yes.
Does it have Pac-12 network?
Does it get the Pac-12 network? Yeah. So Washington State has been great this year, and they're half a game back from Zona in the Pac-12. It's like almost impossible to win at Washington State. So the Cougars being good is like really, really impressive. And, I think it's even more impressive that this is the year that everyone else in the Pac-12 was like, Washington State, F you. Oregon State, F you. We're going somewhere else. And they were like, okay, well, what if we just like won a lot? What if we just balled out?
Yeah.
So, that's going to be a good game. I think that Washington State can win that game because Arizona has been good and Arizona has been dookie.
The game that I think I am most excited about this week, Friday night, we've got powerhouses Yale at Cornell at 7 p.m.
You love some Ivy League action, dude.
I take the Ivy League in the first round of March Madness every year because I have confidence in the Ivy League every time.
You did tell me when Princeton won, you were like,
I called my shot.
You were like, Ivy League is good for at least one game, and then they won 2, and I was like, you didn't call 2. You said at least one game.
Ivy League is good for at least one game, and the Ivy League is pretty dangerous this year. Calling my shot now. Watch out for them in March. These teams are also tied for first in the Ivy, so we could be looking at one of these teams being in March Madness.
Saturday,
and also then winning their first game in March Madness.
Yeah, at least one.
I just said winning their first game. That implies that they could win more, but they also could lose more.
I mean, they can only lose one. They can only lose one, though. Anyway,
tell me about Saturday.
Saturday, our game of the day is for all you Alabama football fans who remember that your team does, in fact, have a basketball team. 15 Alabama goes to Kentucky at 4 p.m. and Bama's first in the SEC. They got a tough week. Like we said, that they play Florida, but they're at home for that game. So Calipari has to win this game. The fan base is nuts. They lost like 3 at home for the first time
ever.
They lost
in Rupp Arena.
In Rupp Arena history. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they got to win that game. But if Kentucky wins this game, it'll make the SEC race more interesting.
Yep. And Sunday, rounding out the week, we've got Southern Method. We've got SMU at UCF at noon.
Not right. Not UCF.
SMU at USF. Wow. Acronyms. At noon. Southern Methodist is 2 games back of South Florida. South Florida will probably win the league, but this could make things interesting. And then South Florida's coach, Amir Abdul-Rahim, was at Kennesaw State and was 1-28 his first year. And in 4 years, he had them at 26-9 and made the NCAA tournament for the first time ever.
This is sick.
He turned around to Kennesaw State. Here he is turning around South Florida.
That's a sick story, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to Luke. Thanks for listening this long.
Luke, specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Specifically, thanks to everyone, but specifically thanks to Luke, who I know is religiously listening to this podcast an hour and 40 minutes in.
All right. So our guess the game.
It's you this time. It's you.
It is me, Adam. We've got undisputed national champions, going to the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Undisputed national champions. This is, I'm going to assume, a football thing. And I'm going to say undisputed national champions. Oh, is it UCF? Okay, it's UCF at BYU.
No.
Is one right?
It's UCF. Blue Ridge Mountains. See your geography.
Bro, who's in the Big 12? Are you? Idaho.
Nope.
State.
Nope. Idaho State's not in the Big 12.
Sorry, Iowa State.
No.
Okay.
There are not very many mountains in Iowa, dog.
Dude, I've never been to Iowa. It's true, though.
Flat and corn.
Yeah.
Think the other direction.
The other direction?
Yep.
Oh, is it UCF at West Virginia?
It is. West Virginia,
Sheesh.
home. They are located in the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of West Virginia.
Never heard that. Is that in the Smoky Mountains?
No, the Smoky Mountains are a different
Mountain range.
Mountain range. That's Smoky Mountains are in Tennessee and a little bit of the Carolinas. The Smokies move pretty much. My understanding. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. No, they range.
Okay.
East-west. The Blue Ridge are a little bit more northeast, south-north.
That hint was helpful. Thank you. I was like, who are these teams in the Big 12? I drove through West Virginia going to...
And you probably drove through the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Yeah, I drove through West Virginia going to Richmond.
Mm-hmm.
And...
most definitely would have been through.
And next time, I will not take the path that goes through West Virginia. Not because it was slow or anything. I would just rather hit pasture highways that take longer than go through really slow mountains. That's it.
But it's the most beautiful path. You took the scenic route, so to speak.
There were a lot of political signs.
That'll happen.
Yeah.
But this game is Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Okay. Tuesday. I picked an early game too. Not Tuesday, but it is early in the week. So my game is a king and queen versus a bunch of chucks.
It's Auburn. Just thinking of Charles Barkley.
You're close with the Charles thing there. That's helping. A bunch of chucks. Like some would say, a ton of them.
That doesn't help me at all.
Chuck is the nickname for
Little Dicky.
Chuck is the nickname for, you just said,
Charles.
But a ton of them.
Oh, Charleston.
Uh-huh. Game's at Charleston.
Charleston. Okay.
A king and a queen.
Okay.
It's two names.
Okay. Yep.
It's two names.
Yep. Princeton. No.
Nope.
No. I don't know what conference Charleston's in. And I'm saying all these to make it more enjoyable content for our listeners.
Obviously, dude.
Just silent, as the hamsters in my brain are.
Well, you see, if you get this wrong, you have to give up on trying to get citizenship in England. Tough one.
England citizenship has nothing to do with North American college basketball.
But a king and a queen do.
Dude, I'm gonna feel like a real idiot when you tell me what this is. I have no idea.
You want to hear it?
Yes.
You got a bunch of chucks. It's Charleston. At Charleston. The king and the queen, William and Mary. At Charleston. Monday, 8 p.m. So King William III and Queen Mary II of England.
Fun fact, William and Mary is the oldest college in North America. I'm pretty positive. Oldest university.
Huh.
Either that or...
You had a fun fact ready to go and everything. Dang.
That fun fact might be slightly wrong. It's the oldest something. First something.
Sounds good to me. They would name it after it.
I would have never thought of William and Mary. I was thinking of like King's College.
It's a tough one because of like you're trying to like Washington and Jefferson College. You're like,
right. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Presidents. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. I like the Little Dicky reference. Chuck.
Just saying. Shout out TV show Dave.
Dave Bird watches Hot Ones. It's a good one.
No free ads though.
Yeah.
So you know what is free? Liking and subscribing on our YouTube channel, following our Spotify, following our account on Apple Music. If you like the YouTube content, ring the bell, get notifications anytime we publish either an episode or shorts that we put out several times a week. So with that, the clock is showing quadruple zeros. It's time for us to get out of here. I'm struggling with my words. It's a long, tough week. I'm still mourning the losses of our teams
keep piling up
in the state of basketball. But again, thanks for checking in. This is the State of Basketball podcast. We will see you next week. And remember, in 49 states,
it's just